Hey guys, Agent of Doubt here. And it's a beautiful Sunday night going into Monday morning, and I am a minute early on starting this broadcast, still trying to do it once a day for the entire month of February, putting up at least a video or a live stream, and I consider myself to be successful thus far, but we've got one more week to go. So, where am I going to start? The first thing in the title, because that's probably clickbait enough that I should just get that out of the way so people don't have to watch the rest of the video, right? So, in Thunderfoot's video about Theranos Busted, there is a point where he is doing a Google search on himself, and he is uh, saying that Google hates him, and that's why when you Google his name, Thunderfoot, and do like Thunderfoot YouTube or uh, Thunderfoot Busted or anything, you come up with suggestions for videos by other creators other than him. And all of the videos are made by other people. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm a YouTuber with 3,000 videos. What would happen if you looked up on Google Agent of Doubt YouTube or Agent of Doubt or anything? And I found out that same thing's going on with me, right? It's not that Google hates me, it's just that the video suggestions uh, that are below the link to my channel, just like him, uh, are by other people. And I don't know what it is that Google's doing with that. That it seems like they're removing people's own channel names from the search results from that bar of videos on the Google search. But I did notice when I went into YouTube and searched my own channel name that the first things that came up were different than I remembered them being before. I used to do vanity checks on myself. I haven't done them in a while, so I don't know when these changes happened. But your own channel comes up and it says latest videos from right away. So it's actually better in that respect for me on YouTube. But I'm betting that if you Google just about anyone with a unique username that has had a lot of other videos made about them, that you'll see the same results where you Google their name and then every person who ever made a video about you has a better chance of getting in the suggested videos than you do. I don't know why that's the way that the Google search works, and now the YouTube search is actually better for people trying to keep their detractors from being the most suggested thing. But yeah, it is what it is. But here's the thing: Thunderfoot used that for a segue into Google hates him, and so therefore you should uh, help help him by supporting him on Patreon. You know, he showed how he had just gotten demonetized on his coronavirus video, and he used that other thing, the search results, as an example of why you should patronize him on Patreon. And I'm not going to begrudge him, telling people that they should go support him on Patreon if they like his videos. But the angle that Google hates him and is somehow burying his channel by showing all of his detractors and not his own videos, he's not the only one with this search result thing. I actually took a screenshot of my own search of my own username and I tweeted it out at Team YouTube and Thunderfoot himself so that they would both see It's happening to me too. It's probably happening to everybody. So um, to use that as fodder for, oh, I'm being oppressed by uh, the the algorithms of Google. So you need to support me on Patreon. It reminds me of how other YouTubers like Secular Talk, Jimmy Dore, uh, what's his fuck, uh, Pacman, David Pacman, they all say, "Oh no, the algorithm is cracking down on our news regurgitation, and so we can no longer read, you know, news headlines and then give our opinion on it and get paid for it. You must support us on Patreon, or we won't be able to continue doing what we're doing." And this call to action is something that you could just call it good marketing, right? Marketing people would tell you to do these kind of things in order to drum up more money from supporters. But in my perspective, being that I have gone to school for psychology and counseling and whatnot, I see it as manipulative. And it's off putting to me when I see people do a call to action based on something that you can demonstrate with other channels that it's just not true. Google is not cracking down on Thunderfoot any more than they're cracking down on me. Furthermore, you do not have a right to be monetized when you are talking about things that advertisers don't want associated with their products. Okay? It's not about, oh, I'm being too edgy, or oh, they're silencing my opinion. No, it's that the advertisers don't want their videos played before and after something about the coronavirus. The advertisers don't want their videos played before and after war in Iran or your political opinions. Okay, they want to stay clean of that. And now that there are tools to do that, a lot of YouTubers are finding themselves demonetized, and that's okay. They didn't have the right to that monetization. All right, it's a privilege, and if you talk about things that the advertisers don't want to be associated with, you're not going to get their ad money. You know, it's not a tumor. It's not a conspiracy. It's just, better marketing on YouTube's part. You know that they're making record amounts of money every year and they're getting better at it every year. Um, they're trying to become profitable. You know, that's it. Anyways, that's the end of the Thunderfoot and monetization rant. The rest of this video, if it goes for hours and I'm talking to my subscribers, will have nothing to do with any of that. Uh, Also, I am a longtime subscriber of Thunderfoot and Secular Talk, Kyle Kalinske. So um, just know that I'm not completely bashing them. I just don't like that one thing that they do. Um, I also don't like when people say, like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell at the end of their videos. It just feels fake and plastic. Personal opinion. Oh, and also, uh, I because I was looking into Patreon and how mine's pretty much petered out and died, and everybody else who had large Patreon followings. If you look on graphtreon.com, you can see everybody's Patreon following trailing off because Patreon as a whole seems to be dying out as a trend for uh, people who are talking heads on YouTube. Um, I checked out my Subscribestar account after months of having one, and not one person ever gave me any money on Subscribestar. I don't know if this is true for everybody who's ever done that, but I looked into it, and my settings were set at like $4.99 to subscribe to me there. I was like, well, I never set that. Maybe I just didn't look far enough into the settings, or maybe the website changed since the last time I set it and forget it left the website. But yeah, it seems to me like a big non-starter because I guess it's basically there for the likes of I don't know, the shitlords here that already had thousands of people uh, patronizing them on Patreon, and then they lost their Patreon capabilities. So um, let's see. In the comments, the loner says secular talk particularly annoys me with the algorithm complaints and attempt to sidestep with odd ASCII characters and titles. I did notice that he does that. Unfortunately for him, I mean, it's kind of superstitious at this point because one of the things that can get you demonetized is the captions that get put on videos. And as soon as your video hits like over a couple thousand views, your video is going to get captioned automatically by Google, and anything that you say in the video can also get you demonetized. And there's so many things that can do it, and sometimes they're just innocuous things. You're not going to be able to tell every time whether or not you're, you know, running afoul of the advertisers. So the best, the best strategy for my type of videos is really just do what you want to do, and then some videos will just get demonetized, and just fucking live with it, you know. For people who put like hours and hours into every video, they might want to be more careful. For people who rely on YouTube as an income, which I don't recommend anyone ever do, um, for those people who rely on YouTube for an income, maybe they want to pay more attention to whether or not they're demonetized and try to figure out the rhyme or reason for it. One of these days, some edgy company like Adam and Eve sex toys is going to say, all those videos that have limited monetization on them, we want to advertise on those because we want that crowd or something. Not that everyone who talks about politics is a pervert, but they did spend a little bit too much time talking about Jeffrey Epstein, didn't they? Anyways, um, so what was next in the title? I forgot what the fucking title of the video was. Shit. Uh, let's see. So there was this vanity ratio that I had, right? This is kind of connected to the first thing that I talked about in this video, but not so much. Um, oh, thank you, Loner. It's Wim Hof. I'll get to that. So there's this vanity measurement that I had in the past, and that was you search your own YouTube name, right? And you go down the first page, which now takes for fucking ever. I don't know when this changed, but it used to be like 20 or 30 videos, and you could count how many of those videos were uh, attempted ponage of you. Like I had a bunch of religious people responding to my responses to them. So there was like out of 30 videos on the first page on YouTube, I would get 5 people that I wouldn't want people to see if that was like their first video that they ever saw me in, because it's somebody else's opinion criticizing me, right? And so you could play this ratio game with just about anyone. Um, it's okay if the video is positive and responding to you, but you just count all the negative videos about you on that first screen that people would see, and then compare that to the number of videos before the last negative video, because now it's a pretty much endless stream of videos that keeps on loading more. But when it was paginated, it was like, how many out of 30 were negative about you. This ratio is just like how you look in searches. And so I had a pretty positive ratio. The most negative I know of is Nick Bravo, who might join us in the chat later, but he has a very big problem with people uploading videos about him. And there were a few others like Anita Sarkeesian, Feminist Frequency. She had like a ton of problems with her search results. Um, and the usual characters, the people who people like to make videos about. Onision has a horrible, horrible ratio. His name is trashed, right? So that's how you would look at these ratios. And usually, everyone in my community here on YouTube has one or two videos that you wouldn't want people to click on if that was the first video that they were going to be watching about you, because it's just negativity about you. But I've noticed that with YouTube putting, latest videos from the person that you're searching as a box at the top, you're likely not going to search through all the other videos where videos about you might come up. So there'll be less negativity on the platform, right? Hopefully. I just moved my mouse on my laptop when I should have been touching the screen on my phone that I'm actually streaming on. Sometimes I trick myself. All right, Wim Hof. So recently I've been talking about a different cult than this. Uh, it's the Landmark Forum. It has like taken seed in my city, right? Other YouTubers, they're going to talk about the coronavirus, right? What I'm talking about is I see hundreds of people every week, right? And I talk to them about their day. Um, and one of the things that is spreading across my city is this scam by a cult called the Landmark Forum, right? And in previous videos, I've talked about how I'm doing research on it. I'm trying to inoculate people from joining. And I use the word cult specifically to describe them because I want people to know it's a cult mixed with a multi level marketing campaign, right? So there's this other cult that just, uh, because of the season, has sprung up in Denver, right? And the guy who did a lot of the teachings that people are getting into, his name is Wim Hof, right? And he's famous for his breathing technique and also cold immersion, right? So you got people all over the city getting frostbite because they're trying to go do yoga in the snow. I'm not kidding. They're calling it snowga, like snow and yoga put together as a portmanteau of the two words. Snowga. I know some of you have just fallen over in your chairs laughing that like this is a thing. Google it. Fucking snowga. Okay, so um, again, I find myself wanting to inoculate everybody that I see that is getting into these breathing techniques and stuff, and thinking that they're going to align their chakras by, you know, being able to focus better because the cold immersion that they're doing. Um, People are going to be people. I mean, there's always going to be something that is a trendy fad. Um, but I liked when like the fads were when Joe Rogan started adding turmeric to his coffee, and people started taking their coffee with turmeric last month. You know, that shit, not that bad. You know, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to give you frostbite. Yeah, but the woo is strong with people in my city. I think it starts in Boulder, and for the Colorado Springs people, it starts in Manitou Springs. The Manitoutians bring it out. Shit like Snoga. Um, so yeah, Wim Hof breathing. Uh, he thinks that you can become superhuman by breathing in a certain way and doing so while doing yoga while seated in the snow. Long, deep breaths while you're freezing. Hopefully, in uh, more than just yoga pants, because those things are not insulated whatsoever. All right, so let's see where people are in my comments now. Um, Coherent Nonsense says, I was looking for reggae and now I'm here somehow. Reggae? There's nothing about me that is into reggae. There's nothing on my channel about reggae. I mean, in 3,000 videos, maybe I put the word reggae in something, but no. Um, sorry. Paul Hoff says his channels aren't monetized. It's weird that I have Paul Hoff as one of the people in my comments, and I'm talking about Wim Hof. I know it's spelled a little bit different, but you know, there usually aren't that many Hoffs in my life. Um, Loner says, kudos for trying to save idiots. I don't have the strength of character for such an undertaking. Well, I kind of found a knack for it. I do group therapy. I do DUI groups. I do counseling. I do relapse prevention. you know, it's just something I do for a living. And some people don't like to talk to other people, you know, and they like to avoid human contact as much as possible. And I'm not one of those people. Um, I'm actually one of those people who doesn't like to think about money. I know that I want more of it, but numbers with dollar signs usually tends to bring me pain. Just like looking at it on paper, I'm like, God damn it! There's not enough money in the fucking world. you know, why don't I have enough money to not think about money? The less money you have, the more you have to think about it. So, um, yeah, what was next uh, in my title? Do not pirate. Okay, so because I was into that rabbit hole of first I looked at Thunderfoot that I looked at my own shit. Then I started doing vanity searches on myself. One of the people who made a response to me, I didn't see it, right? But it was a month ago, right? And just by searching my own channel name on YouTube, I found this. This YouTuber's name is Do Not Pirate, right? He made a video where it's my YouTube username is in the title. He could have put anyone's username there, and you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Like there's no context to the video, and it was weird. And he's got a filter on his camera that makes his head like a circus mirror, you know. But I guess I put his name in the title just to give him a shout out for making a video directed at me. And yeah, guys, go check him out. Um, he only had like 9 or 10 views on the video about me, but yeah, he's got like 50 views on one video, 35 views on another. You know, he's one of us. He's making videos uh, almost daily, and you know, keep the conversation going. This is a social media network. You're supposed to use it not to publish and just throw things out there and never interact with people. You know, um, he made a video directed at me. I'll put his name in the title and just give him a shout out. Uh, Night coherent nonsense. Paul says in the service of all his family, he had his last name shortened to Hoff. They also call the actor who starred in Knight Rider the Hoff, right? David Hasselhoff. He was the shit back in the day. I think every kid wanted to be him because they wanted his car and his jacket and yeah, and his hair. I'm almost there. Almost. Anyways, hi Proctor Hawk. Nice of you to join us. You're probably going to ask me about Bernie, maybe. Um, so let's talk about things indirectly about Bernie, since we all know that he won in Nevada. I think most of the results are in. I haven't checked in half a day. Last time I checked, it was like 60% in. Why can't they be immediate results? I want to know. I mean, like, why does it take days to count this shit? Okay, we're at 88% reporting. Bernie so far has 13 delegates. Joe Biden has two, and Pete Buttigieg got one delegate out of Nevada. But the percentage of the Nevada race is just staggering. Bernie Sanders has more than twice what the next runner-up has as far as votes for him in the delegate count, and so it's really a crushing blow to everybody else in the field. And I wouldn't be surprised if more people don't drop out before Super Tuesday, um, maybe to consolidate the resistance to Bernie, because it would take pretty much all of them put together to beat him. So if they start the consolidation, maybe Elizabeth Warren would hold out from consolidating just to help him. I don't know, uh, and maybe she would. endorse him to try to help him. I don't know. Seems like when in the second alignment of caucuses, when people have to leave Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard, they tend to just add their numbers to Bernie Sanders. So, hey, speaking of Michael Knight, David Hasselhoff, Michelle Knight is actually in the chat, and she's actually one of my moderators. She's never on while I'm streaming, but uh, she happens to be on today. So be on your best behavior, or she will come down with the ban hammer because I actually one day figured out how to promote people to moderator, and she's one of them. And she says, don't hassle the Hoff. Um, Proctor says he's been tuning into my streams on the replay, and he's got a pretty good grasp on how I stand on Bernie. Okay, so I had an opinion about Thunderfoot at the beginning of this video, but it wasn't like ponage level. It was just an opinion, and I was pointing out that he was a little bit wrong about Google hating him, because if they hate him, they hate me, and they hate everybody. Because if you search anyone on YouTube who has videos made about them, they're the videos that get recommended will be everyone else but the actual channel you're searching. Um, but there's another uh, strange opinion that I saw. Um, it was a tweet from JJ Talks, and it was a response to a response, right? And breaking this whole thing down, okay? Um, JJ Talks was responding to somebody on Twitter who had a blue verification check, right? And though they were responding to another person with a blue verification check, and these checks that people get on Twitter, they can be to people who got into the verification system before you actually had to be somebody. You know, um, I have a bigger following than a lot of the people who have verification checks because they shut it all down before I realized that verification might be something I'd want to do. So now there's nobody's out there with verification checks, and I don't have one. The last person I met in person who had a verification check on Twitter, um, he did drone videos of a volcano on his YouTube channel, and that was about it. That was all he had as far as content. But he got verified back when it was possible for anyone to get verified. So let me go ahead and bring up JJ Talks's Twitter. So she was quote responding to somebody else named Andrew Perez, DC, who has the verification check. And he's just a minor blogger. He isn't anyone special. He just got the verification check, back when anybody could get it. So Andrew Perez was responding to somebody else named Adrienne Elrod, right? And Adrienne Elrod has been a Huffington Post uh, contributor, a Fox News panelist from the Democratic Party, willing to talk with Republicans. Um, Adrienne Elrod, uh, she has her own company now called Elrod Strategies, and she is a consultant for a lot of different people who are Democrats, right? But also, she was the spokesperson for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. the Hillary for America thing. And also, she has off and on in her life pretty much been a staffer for a Clinton her whole life. I mean, there was little breaks here and there where she was a staffer for somebody else. Pretty much, she has worked for the Clintons, be it Bill or Hillary, her whole goddamn life, right? This is important for you guys to know. Adrienne Elrod, except for like the last couple years and like a couple years where she was a staffer for some other congressman out of California. Other than that, she has been working under the Clintons her whole goddamn life. Back when Bill Clinton became president, she was a staffer at the White House. You know, she has worked for them for fucking ever, right? Um, and she's also worked on PACs as like uh, board members of PACs that would basically deal in that shadow money for the Clintons, right? The loner says so. She's one of Bill's many illegitimate children. She might as well be family, right? She has a bias, but here's the big thing. But she does not hold any sort of office where she should be silent about her opinions. Okay, she writes her opinions on Huffington Post. She writes them uh, for other places. She's on Fox News, opinionated all the fucking time. She has a podcast called The Electables, right? And you can listen to her podcast. She has opinions all the fucking time about which candidates she likes and doesn't like. And of course, because she's worked for the Clintons for fucking ever, she likes the Clintons pretty much on every fucking issue. If there's the pro or against Clinton stance, she's pro Clinton, right? So she tweets out uh, candidates seeking to gain an edge on Bernie in the little time that is left need to recalibrate their strategy going into Tuesday's debate. Do not take on Bloomberg or each other. Take on the front runner. That's what she tweeted, right? So Andrew Perez, who writes for a bunch of blogs um, like Map Light and IB Times, he has the little blue check mark, just like Adrienne Elrod, and he tweet responds to her. The DNC is supposed to be neutral, yet their communications consultant is publicly pleading for candidates to attack Bernie at Tuesday's debate. Here's the thing, she's a consultant, she's not an officer of the DNC. They ask her her opinion. She writes for newspapers. She writes for rags. She's a Fox News contributor. She used to run Hillary Clinton's campaign. She's been a staffer for the Clintons pretty much all of her life. But she does not hold any office where she has to be neutral in her opinions. She's a consultant, right? When the DNC wants her opinion on how the DNC should be run because she's been around it all her fucking life, they ask her, and she gives her biased opinion on how the establishment should keep control of their own fucking party and not let the upstart who's been independent for 30 fucking years of his political career take over their party. Mind you, I'm supporting Birdie in all this, right? I just understand her perspective, right? She's allowed to have her opinion. She had it, right? So then JJ Talks, quote, treats Andrew Perez, and I imagine that little blue check mark that Andrew Perez has gives him like this weight of authority where people don't fact check or think about like what those words mean in his tweet when he says their communications consultant. She's just a consultant, right? She doesn't hold an office. But she says, this is the shit Bernie supporters can't stand. For the past 5 years, this is how the DNC has treated him. Yes, we're fed up with it. It's psychotic. In her defense, I understand the feeling. Yes, he did get fucking screwed in many different ways. I mean, he's still kind of getting screwed in various ways, like the way that the Iowa caucus numbers kept trickling out in a way to make him look like he didn't have as much support as he had. And then by the time that all of the numbers were in, uh, people had forgotten to keep going back to check as the numbers came in. And oh my goodness, you know, he won the popularity vote and he almost won the most delegates from it. Pete Buttigieg got like one more delegate than him because the caucus is different than the popularity contest at the beginning where they all just vote, right off who they want. And then the delegates are a completely different vote, right? Because they have to pledge themselves and then they align themselves. It's a hokey pokey, right? But the way that they came out with the results, and it really did look like uh, Buttigieg was buying some election fraud in there. It really looks shady, and I think that people are going to be uh, investigating it for a while. Why he was able to be somebody who his campaign gave money to the app that failed. Yeah, it was shady as fuck. Anyways, things like that have happened to him at every step of the way, right? So I get why JJ was like, you know, this shit happens to Bernie all the time. But at the core of this, I want everyone to just realize Adrienne Elrod can have her opinion. And I understand why she has it. Because she's been around the Clintons for fucking ever. And the Clintons, they don't like Bernie. you know, and that's probably the understatement of the year. Um, so, Propter Hawk says blue check is not good enough unless they have the dynamic duo of the blue check and pronouns in the profile. James Woods has a check, and that's clearly not good enough of an authority marker. Um, they still haven't reopened like the verification. It seems like they have like one person who goes around looking at people who are the TikToker of the week, and he twinks them with a check mark. But anybody else, it doesn't matter how many follows you have. There's no process to go through to get verified. They notice you. You don't ask them. Um, well, it looks like my band hammer is going away. That sucks. Later, Michelle. Uh, let's see. And I guess the last thing I had to talk about with you guys was Bar Louie. So many of you know, if you're a longtime viewer of my channel, that I had a business in 2013 and 2014, and I lost it, ran it into the ground, and it sucked. And every time I hear of a place, not doing well business wise, it brings up that trauma for me. You know, yes, Proctor, it was that business, and so Misty and I, a couple weeks ago, we were eating uh, way up north in Broomfield. That's a city north of Denver, right? And we were outside of a movie theater, the AMC. And basically, this whole shopping place was like built around the movie theater. It was like a theater district. No apartments on the second floor, but like basically it was that kind of air to it, where it was almost like a outdoor mall. And we went and ate at a Thai restaurant. And while we were inside, I was looking out the window and I was like, why is that guy like taking all the chairs and tables into the building over at the bar Louie, right? Because he was like, it was like he had no care in the world as to whether or not he was hurting the chairs by dragging them, right? And he just looked pissed off dragging those chairs into the building. It's like, wow, there must be a snowstorm coming or something because they're not going to have patio seating on the outside. Little did I know they were closing down that location of Bar Louie in the Broomfield area because they had a bankruptcy, and I didn't know about this. So what I was watching was the actual like tear down of the outside area. They were like throwing it all into the building so that they could like lock it and like sell it off. And Bar Louie, um, it's apparently not from the Denver area, but it's a chain that has multiple locations in Denver, and they're all like shutting down one after the other. And I heard about another one shutting down, and I was like, hey, maybe I'll look into this. And then I realized I was actually there the day that they shut down. I was across the walkway in the Thai restaurant looking right at it, didn't know what it was. And it bugs me. Um, it brings up that trauma from losing my own business. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like looking at money and numbers. It's just, I want to have enough money that I don't have to look at money and I don't have to look at numbers and I don't have to look at a store closing, you know? Um, but I think that a lot of stores that are anchored by movie theaters are going to be closing because people don't watch movies the same way. You know, you got Netflix in your home. TVs are freaking cheap, like cheaper than they've ever been. And you can get like a 60-inch TV, smart TV, for 300 bucks. Probably better than that. I just haven't been out shopping. But that's just ungodly huge for the amount of money compared to what it was just 10 years ago. And I know why. It's because all the smart apps are now connected to your social media and your devices in a way that they can share information and figure out who you are so that they can market to you better, right? So the TVs are cheaper than they've ever been. There's services to stream movies to you within 3 months of them coming out in the theaters. You can find them on either your favorite movie service or on a pay per view service, and of course, there's piracy. There's that too. But there's so much free entertainment out there anyway. If you're just streaming, you don't have to have a cable plan or a satellite plan. You can just keep streaming YouTube all fucking day. There's there's been up to like 13 of you in this stream as I'm talking right now that aren't watching TV, you know, and all of that turns into malls and shopping centers that are anchored by movie theaters are dying. You know, we've had a couple malls in the Denver area turn into Amazon distribution centers. Like the whole mall turned into an Amazon distribution center, right? They like it because there's plenty of parking when they take over the mall. And also, there's usually a bus terminal at the mall already there, and it's connected to bus lines, because people used to work there when they worked at the mall. So it's like pre set up for Amazon to just take over and have a whole bunch of workers have access to getting there. So, yeah, malls are dying. And one big reason is the draw of the movie theater that was connected to the mall is not there anymore. And what I was seeing right before my eyes was yet another chain that has had to declare bankruptcy because it's no longer viable. And sucks to see that. Yeah, malls are dying in general, but people die in general. But it sucks when it happens up close to you, you know? And yeah, funny thing is, I never got to eat at Bar Louie. I'm a foodie, and I'm like, God damn it, I never went to that restaurant. Why didn't I? Probably because it's a chain and I like mom pop places. That's one of those weird things that happened to me after my business went under. I like to patronize, you know, smaller places. Try to give them a chance. Um, Loner says I couldn't tell you the last movie I paid to see. Never been a theater goer, and drive-ins are nearly extinct. The last movie that I paid to see was The Joker, and the movie that I paid to see before that was Split, and took Misty with me to both of those. I saw Split in the movie theater, and we didn't see Glass in the movie theater. We waited till that came out, and we watched it at home. So, and I think that was a good call. I wanted to see Rogue One in the theater, but Misty kind of had one of those anxiety fits where she was like, "No, if I hear kids laughing during my movie, I might have to assault a minor." I was like, "Okay, we'll just stay home and watch something else." Alan says death is superficial. If it wasn't, people would not go to wars. I suppose that's why I don't want to go to war because I don't consider death to be superficial because I only know that I have this life. All right, guys, I gave you 54 minutes of my life, and it's time for me to check out. I'm going to throw this out into the ether just to keep myself accountable. Um, I want to get a haircut tomorrow. So I'm going to wake up, and there is a barber shop that's opening on a Monday. Half of them are closed on Monday, but I'm going to try out a new one because I'm not loyal to any barber yet. I had one that had barber shop tools and a tattoo of the word love, but it was like the L was a hair dryer, and the O was a mirror, and the V was a razor, and the E was the cord from the hair dryer, making it a cursive E. Um, I don't know what her name was. She was the one with love tattooed on her arm with barbershop tools, right? And she stopped going to the place where I was getting my hair cut, and now I don't have a place where I'm loyal to. When I was in the Springs, there was a place called the Man Cave that I used to get my hair cut at, but whatever. I need to find a new place, and so I'll be trying another one tomorrow. And if my hair looks like shit, uh, I'll give them a bad Yelp review.